All right, so welcome back. If you've been here before, if this is your first time, welcome. and, and so today, again, we are going to be exploring some of the why behind what causes us to burn out and ways that we can refuel. So let's get started. Today's course is based on these three sources: Harvard Business Review's Guide to Beating Burnout, Jennifer Moss's The Burnout Epidemic, and Paula Davis's Beating Burnout at Work. And you can find all of these texts at your local library or your bookstore retailer. So take a look through them if you get an opportunity. Good reads, good information. And again, this is what we have based our course on today. So data from Gallup. Gallup, I hope you guys have all heard of them. It's one of our favorite sources here at Employee Development. Their global emotion report from 2021 noted that at the time, the world was at its most negative since 2005. But the current Gallup Global Emotions Report shows that while emotions were at a low during the pandemic, as well as other global conflicts that were taking place during that time, they have turned to their pre-pandemic levels. So we are more happy or more positive than we were in 2021 and 2022. These findings are based on nearly 146,000 interviews with adults aged 15 and older, and they took place in 142 countries and areas in 2023. Now, I'm sharing these findings with you because I think that this is actually good news coming from Gallup. And while we know that our world is one which can create a lot of stressful situations, again, it's good to note the good news. Nonetheless, though, it is smart to be aware of the conditions which can cause uncontrolled or chronic stress, and this is referred to as burnout. The World Health Organization added this occupational phenomenon when they printed their 11th revision of their International Classification of Diseases. Burnout's not classified as a medical condition per se, but it is a phenomenon whose factors impact the health and well-being of the workforce, and it can lead to devastating medical conditions. Those in the human service field, that would be all of you all. So anyone, including something to do with health services, social work, and education, they suffer the highest rates of burnout. So during this course, we're going to cover three objectives today to help us recognize and address burnout. First, in understanding burnout, we must start with understanding its basic characteristics. Then we must recognize the impact that burnout has on us mentally and physically. Then, once we have a grasp of it, a bit of why it happens, we can talk about some of the ways to combat it, stop running on empty, and get back on the road. So what causes burnout to happen? Well, in her text, Beating Burnout at Work, Paula Davis first explains that burnout originates from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. She goes on to note that the deeper cause is an imbalance between job demands and job resources, and burnout is likely to occur when job demands outweigh job resources. Job demands are the aspects of our work that require sustained effort and energy. Job resources are aspects of our work that give us motivation, energy, and they stimulate our personal growth, our learning, and our development. So again, it comes back to that imbalance between the demands and the resources of our job. So think of it like frostbite, which I hope none of you have ever experienced, but nonetheless, when you've experienced frostbite, it starts like an aching sensation. And then over time, it turns into more of a throbbing feeling. And if nothing is done to warm the skin, it begins to turn cold and numb, impacting the health of the skin, the tendons, the muscles, and even the bones. So just like frostbite, burnout takes time to develop, and it has three main characteristics that manifest over time. These three characteristics we are going to call our ice cubes. And they are going to help us remember the acronym ICE, which we're going to talk about these words in a little bit more detail here in a moment. But these are the characteristics of burnout: inefficacy, cynicism, and exhaustion. So inefficacy means the failure to produce the desired or effect, or in our case, to do our jobs in a satisfactory manner. So what happens is, as we're struggling to do our job, it becomes harder and harder to feel accomplished in our work. We begin to let little things go that we would do, and after a time, we let slip more important aspects. Davis calls this the why bother, who cares mentality. Why should I bother to file that form when I know the other person isn't going to read it? Or maybe it's like, why call them back? They'll call again. So let's take a look at what cynicism is. I think you guys are probably familiar with that word, but how does that affect us when we're talking about burnout? It's a defense mechanism in the hopes to stabilize and control the mismanaged stress. So slowly, everybody around you starts to get on your nerves, and everything's beginning to just aggravate you and become overwhelming. This causes us to pull back and isolate. We're social creatures by nature. We want to be around people by nature. Being alone is sometimes good for us. It's not okay to be alone all the time, even when we're at work. So, a good analogy of cynicism is Ebenezer Scrooge. With burnout, we do not start out optimism to pessimism. It happens over time. One day, we suddenly find ourselves going, bah humbug, and withdrawing. If we move on to our last characteristic here, that would be exhaustion. And again, I'm sure this is one that we can all relate to. Exhaustion is the characteristic of burnout that makes us feel like we are running on empty, but we must keep going. Exhaustion develops when we become physically and emotionally drained. Your fuel tank of motivation is on fumes, and you are just going through the motions to get through the day and get it done with. Like cynicism, exhaustion takes time to reveal itself, but once it takes over, it stays. So each one of these things, they build and they build and they build. We'll do one little more exercise to see if you can spot some burnout. So if we take a look at these images on your screen here, which one of these images do you think demonstrates the characteristics of burnout? All right, so again, spotting those red flags is how we can help ourselves and help each other or others. But how does it impact us? Physical, psychological, and behavioral are all ways that we are impacted by burnout. So let's look first at some of the physical implications. The Mayo Clinic and other researchers show that those experiencing burnout, like many of you just said, you experience illness, you get sick more often. You suffer things like frequent headaches, stomach and digestive issues, prolonged fatigue. You might potentially suffer from restlessness and insomnia outside of the workplace. And on a more serious note, you may experience heart palpitations and even chest pain. As burnout continues, all of these symptoms that you see listed, they can all get worse over time. So that's when you need to consult a medical specialist. They may be needed as burnout is not addressed. It can just start out being, oh, I can't sleep. But if, oh, I can't sleep turns into, I haven't slept in 3 weeks, that's becoming a serious problem. So those are some of the physical ramifications. If those weren't enough, the things that happen to us physically, we also have psychological problems that happen. Some people may develop panic attacks. There's increased anxiety and again, a feeling of hopelessness and anger. Those feelings can lead a person to become frustrated and irritable. Many of you said that, the way that you respond to people, you're not nice, you're angry, you don't have patience. These feelings also can develop into depression, and that too also is going to lead you to not wanting to do the things that you used to like to do. You have a loss of enjoyment in the things that used to bring you joy. So all of these things too are going to get worse if they are not addressed. And then lastly, we have behavioral impacts. Burnout can impact a person's work productivity. Many of you said that. Usually the productivity is going to decline. It's not going to get better, it's going to decline. Also, mood changes. So again, people are going to isolate, they're going to distance themselves from people because they are irritable. They aren't going to want to have to deal with anybody. Those mood changes can be drastic at times. You might be like, well, hey, that person used to always be so nice, and now they're just not. And so, things to keep in mind. People might begin to just be dissatisfied with their jobs. It might have been something that they used to love, and now they just don't like it anymore. General feelings, again, of irritability, prolonged disengagement, missing work, absenteeism, things of that nature. It should also be noted that burnout affects the organization as a whole. So not only is the individual suffering, but the organization will suffer also. Financial losses, losses in productivity, patient client satisfaction, rates and errors will increase, and any other quantifiables that are going to impact your organization's bottom line. It would be remiss of me not to mention and have a very blatant warning here. That check engine light is on when these things start to happen. Your check engine light, your body is saying, hey, hey. So, yes, burnout can cause severe health problems. And this statement is backed by many, many years of research and studies. While the information covered today is beneficial, it does not replace medical advice from professionals, medical professionals. This is an academic and job development tool, and its advice is not medical. I hope that what we are giving you here today will help you better understand, prevent, and combat burnout in yourself and your coworkers before serious symptoms occur. But if you think that you or someone you know is suffering from burnout, please seek a medical professional. It is never too late to prevent or recover from burnout. So, yes, this is kind of a bleak topic, I know, but it is a very serious workplace issue and a common one at that. So now that we understand the characteristics and the impacts of burnout, we can move on to our third and final objective for today, which is preventing and recovering from burnout. People facing burnout, they're going to feel like they are running on empty, hence the name of our course. So really, I hate to say this, but there's not really a magic solution to burnout. And just like any physical or emotional injury, it will take time to recover. So how do we fill our tanks and get back on the road? Let's look at a few suggestions on how we can refill. The first one is prioritizing self-care and doing things like practicing mindfulness. Take care of yourself outside of the workplace. Again, that's why I said, maybe think about where your energies are going. Get a good night's rest. Maybe, change your nutrition up a little bit. See if you can find resources. Again, we'll give you the link to our employee development webpage as we end this presentation so that you can look there. We have many mindfulness techniques that you can take a look at. And if you get a chance, just remember to take a breath and always get a moment to recenter yourself. It's important also to set boundaries and seek support. It's what you need to do if you're having a crazy moment. Sometimes you just need to step away and refocus. And sometimes that's all you really need to do to just get yourself together. You don't need to be made available for everybody all the time. Sometimes having those boundaries up is important, but remember not to isolate. Be careful to kind of balance that so that you don't isolate yourself too much. Also, if you're ever in doubt, it's okay to seek support. And that support can be as specific as a medical professional or as broad as a trusted coworker or a friend. I want to spend a little bit of our remaining time, though, today discussing one of the easiest ways that we can help prevent burnout, and that's simply by reframing your workday. Researchers have found that physicians, and they probably get burnout, physicians who were observed doing the most meaningful aspect of their job for at least 20% of their day or work week experienced less burnout than any other physicians who did not. Further studies show that there is a disconnect between what you are doing with your job and what you find to be the most meaningful aspect of your job. This disconnect, it doubles at the rate of burnout experienced. So, how do we find the thing that we like most about our job? Well, I hope you have a little piece of paper handy, maybe a little bit bigger than a Post-it note. Let's try to locate our 20%. All right, so you don't have to do this now, but feel free if you are able. And we are going to just draw a little T-chart just like this. And on one side, we're going to put our dislikes, and the other side, we're going to put our likes, just like I have it there on the screen. And start thinking about 3 or 4 aspects of your job that you just dislike. Start listing them over here, and don't spend too much time on it. Go with the things that are the first ones that come to mind. All right. And some of you may have a whole laundry list, but again, try to go with the first 3 or 4 that come to mind. Do the same thing with the things that you like. What really gets you pumped up? What are the things that have you coming back day after day after day? Again, try to go with your gut reaction, first things that come to mind. All right, now once you've got your 3 or 4 likes over here, circle one of them. Now this might seem really simple, but honestly, that right there is your 20%. If you could only do one of them, that's the one. If you could only do one of them all day, every day, that's your 20%. So circle the one that's the one that you could do all day, every day only out of all of those likes. And that's your 20%. So the idea here is carve out at least 1 hour. That's what the research says. 1 hour a day for this task or aspect of your job. And spending 20% of your workday on something that you like will increase your chances to prevent and recover from burnout. Hold on to that little piece of paper, put it somewhere, and just go, I'm going to make sure I do that every day for an hour, 1 hour. So now that we have filled our tanks at least a little bit by finding our 20%, that does bring us to the end of this presentation. So as a recap, in Objective 1, we learned about the characteristics of burnout. In Objective 2, we looked at the impact that burnout has on us and those around us. And in Objective 3, we covered some of the ways to help prevent and recover from burnout. Again, I would like to mention that the vast amount of resources that we have on our employee development website. Also, did you all know, I'm not done yet, that here we offer an employee mental health reimbursement program. So this program eliminates copays if you are DH, so Department of Health, DHF, DOHS, and OSA. So when you are seeking services at a comprehensive behavioral health center, you do get reimbursement. Additionally, if you choose to receive care from any other licensed clinic or a behavioral health provider, to ensure your privacy and convenience, the Comprehensive Behavioral Health Center does also offer telehealth. So that is for you, again, just for your convenience and your privacy, allows you to connect with providers outside your local community. There's also an employee referral booklet that you can download, and it provides details on available services and is published as a resource for all state employees. So there is all kinds of stuff out there to help you guys, to help you stay healthy, to help you stay up anything that, the state does want to help you stay happy, healthy in the system, doing a good job, taking care of your patients, your clients, your constituents, whatever it might be. So thank you again very much for joining us today. Prevent that burnout. Take care of yourselves. We appreciate your time so much, folks. You have a great afternoon.